At the end of the 19th century, the Oceanic Steam Navigation Company, commonly referred to as White Star Line, saw the addition of the company's latest transatlantic express liner to their fleet. In September of 1899, the 17,274-ton Oceanic entered service as the world's largest ship, and with a length of over 700 feet, was the first vessel to exceed the length of Great Eastern. Oceanic would go on to be very popular with the traveling public for the duration of its 15-year career on the North Atlantic. Not long after Oceanic entered service, White Star Line soon started planning a sister ship to Oceanic, which would incorporate improvements based on the experience of operating Oceanic. This sister ship was to be named Olympic. It is widely believed that the order to build Olympic was cancelled as a direct result of White Star Line's chairman, Thomas Henry Ismay's death in November of 1899, and that White Star Line chose to build the Big Four of intermediate liners instead. However, as we will soon find out, this is actually false. Firstly, White Star Line never made a choice in deciding whether to build either Olympic or the Big Four in the first place. Regardless of whether Olympic was built or not, the Big Four would have been constructed either way, since these two classes of ship were each built for a slightly different service in mind, with Oceanic and Olympic meant for transatlantic express services, while the Big Four were intended for intermediate transatlantic services. This, in addition to Celtic's keel laying in March of 1899, also predates the completion of Oceanic, so White Star Line had already decided to proceed with the construction of the first of the Big Four even before Oceanic was in service. Secondly, White Star Line still had been intending to proceed with Olympic 3 years after Thomas Ismay had passed away, so his death did not have any role in the cancellation of the project. The decision not to build Olympic was actually made only in June of 1902, and this is known because of letters at the time between White Star Line's chairman, Joseph Bruce Ismay, and William James Peary, the chairman of Belfast Shipbuilders, Harland and Wolff, that the decision not to proceed with construction only came about not long after White Star Line was acquired by the International Mercantile Marine Company, or IMM. After the White Star Line shareholders had voted to approve J.P. Morgan's offer for their shares in May of 1902, the company subsequently became a subsidiary of IMM. There were few changes immediately for White Star Line's existing transatlantic express service, as it mostly affected the company's intermediate transatlantic fleet instead. However, it did have an impact on the planned Olympic. Ismay wrote to Peary on the 4th of June, 1902. Of course, had we been left to ourselves, there is little doubt we should have gone with an improved Oceanic, but under the altered circumstances, we don't know where we are. Harland and Wolff had intended to assign yard number 356 to Olympic. However, unfortunately for Olympic, this is the closest the project would ever come to fruition, as Peary wrote back the following day. Under the circumstances, I think it would hardly be justifiable to decide at present to go on with the proposed Olympic. As a result, Harland and Wolff subsequently reassigned the yard number 356 to the Union Castle liner Kenilworth Castle, which was laid down in October of 1902, launched in December of 1903, and completed in May of 1904. At the same time of Peary's reply to Ismay, which was on the 5th of June 1902, the third ship of the Big Four, Baltic, was only 2 days away from its keel laying, while construction of Cedric, the second ship in the series, was already nearly done, as its hull would be launched in August of 1902. By the end of the month, the order to proceed with the fourth and final ship, Adriatic, was also given. The first ship, Celtic, had already been completed a year prior, which also helps to kill the myth that states the steel supposedly intended for Olympic was instead allocated to the Big Four, specifically Celtic, when in fact the contract and order to build Celtic was made in September of 1898, which is nearly 4 years before the Olympic project was ever cancelled. So just as a quick recap, by the time Olympic was cancelled in June of 1902, the first ship of the Big Four was already in service, the second ship was nearing completion, The third ship was just about to start construction, and the final ship was not far away from being given the go-ahead on its construction, and there is no evidence that any of this would have gone differently had White Star Line given the go-ahead to proceed with Olympic's construction. Lastly, by the time Olympic was cancelled, White Star Line was already making payments to Harlan Wolff at a rate of £70,000 each month, and the construction of a more expensive version of Oceanic would only have added to the cost at a time when there was significant uncertainty within the company. It is for this reason that Olympic was never built. However, the name Olympic was eventually reused for a future transatlantic express liner in the White Star Line fleet less than a decade later.